Back to Kundalini yoga. You've been doing it for how long again?
Since July.
Since July.
Like, about 5-6 months on and off.
And in that practice, what primarily are you doing, or like what are you doing now, and like what's the progression of the practice?
Well, it's when you say what am I doing now, like, I mean, what do you mean specifically?
I mean, like, what's a typical practice look like for you?
Oh, okay. So it's we do certain stretches. It's nothing like hatha, or it's nothing like what we're used to. It's nothing flow or anything.
Yeah.
It's just basically activation and more dynamic movements.
Okay.
Right? So there's not really a flow. It just depends on the instructor, but we do a lot of different types of breath work. That is a primary thing, at least that I've noticed at my studio there, is breath work. For instance, there's one called Breath of Fire, which it's not really the greatest. It's just it's depending on what kind of stretch you do as well with the Breath of Fire, it can be really annoying.
So
No,
what's breath of? Can
it's
you
just-
demo now?
So it's just you're like that, and you focus on the inhale and the exhale, or
Yes.
sorry, you focus on the exhale and the inhale. What happens? So it's like, and then it's just very short. It's almost like hyperventilating, but not. But if you are hyperventilating, then that's not recommended. But it's
I
just,
see.
but you're conscious of your breath, right? And we'll do it in certain poses, right? Like, for instance, this is ego eradicator, and you're holding your arms up like this at 60 degrees, or you're doing stretch pose, which is where you're like boat pose, low boat pose, right? And you're holding yourself up like this, and then you do that, and that is actually really hard. We'll do that for a minute,
Yeah, for sure.
and that's very hard because it's not a lot of oxygen, right? But there's a purpose to doing that.
So while you're doing the pose, you're
Yeah,
wow, that's tough.
I hate it. Okay, no, that's a strong word. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it's a challenge for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And then another instructor, he'll push us too, because he's my friend now. We do every week a cold dip at Lynn Valley every Friday.
I've been doing cold dips in the every
ocean?
day in the sunset. Yeah,
It's nice, right?
At first it's challenging, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to enjoy it when I'm in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole point. You just get over the stinging, right?
Yeah.
The initial sting, and then after you're fine.
The first 30 seconds, a minute, it's a little, but once you, like you said, once you reach that point, I swim to, there's like a little, like those buoys out there.
Yeah.
So like by the time I get to the buoy, the cold shock is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're activating your body, right? Your body's,
Yes.
excuse me. Your body's being activated in a different way that which it's not accustomed to, right? That's why the cold that's why the cold water dips and like the cold water healing, or the cold water therapy is very meaningful for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, I actually call it like when I'm walking out there, I look at the water and like you get a little nervous, or like there's sometimes you don't want to do it. Like the act of doing it for me, that's the most challenge. Like it's like just okay, like let's do this thing. And so like when I'm walking, I'm looking in the water, I'm like, that's my therapy. You
Yeah.
know, it's really if you can calm your mind when you're out there, that's really amazing. Like when you're out there and you're cold, and then you just calm the mind, like it's okay. It's okay.
No, and then it shows that how you'll handle yourself in other stressful situations, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, especially when you jump into the cold water, it's a shock, right? But it's a good way to condition yourself. So then when you get shocked by other things in life too, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. I've only been doing this for 2 months ish, maybe 3, something like this. So I can't say how it's gone to other areas of my life, but I'll be curious when I have something like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you should, when you're ready, maybe not during this winter time right now, but you're more than welcome to join us when we go to Lynn Valley, because that's colder.
Colder? Okay.
It's glacier water.
Oh, okay.
So it's like 3 degrees, and it's you know.
Yeah, it's tough. Right?
It's tough. It's tough. But again, once you get through it, right, and then once you get past all that, it's just like this. You have this like glow. You just feel good. You can feel this like very very refreshing, very just vibrant energy around you, like coming from your body. You just feel so great, you know.
I have the same experience. Like if I do the cold plunge,
Mm-hmm.
then I warm up my body, and
Mm-hmm.
I do some yoga afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just feel amazing for
Mm-hmm.
hours.
Yeah,
Like for hours. Like it's wild.
it is wild. Yeah.
I uh
So
I was telling someone, I'm like, I know it seems crazy to say, but like I just feel like after out of the water, like my immune system, it's like functioning better. You know, like
mhm.
like it's a weird thing to say, but I feel that for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you feel too, because it might not be the best for some people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but for others or for many people who are who are taking the challenge, who are taking the plunge, it is very beneficial, you
Yeah,
know.
oh,
So,
100%.
like I was saying with my friend there, he's been into so many accidents, and he's a Kundalini yoga instructor, but he's been in so many accidents, and he says that going to Lynn Valley like once, at least once a week. He
Mm-hmm.
goes twice a week, but he does at least once a week. He says, he's like, that's the best medicine that I've ever had. It's like because he's been to like acupuncture, he's been to
Mm-hmm.
massage therapists, and they all had their level of purpose
Mm-hmm.
for him, but it never got deep like like cold water dipping, especially in Lynn Valley where it's glacier water. It's like really cold, right? So for his injuries, that was good because he's like it's activating for the central nervous system for him. It's
Mm.
just so activating, and it's just like it's exercising his nerves. It's really getting in there because I don't know what it's like to be in so many car accidents like him, but he says that he was like bedridden for years. He's
Wow.
a lot of pain, right?
Yeah.
So I would take his word
Mm-hmm.
over a lot of other people, especially when it says, "Oh, go to acupuncture, do this, get some drugs, things like this," because that only do so much until you actually need something more holistic,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I had not quite that experience, but a similar one, which was I used to be pretty hunched over, right?
hmm
And so when I started exercising more, right, I started getting a lot of pain on my shoulders and my back
hmm
because my posture like this, and then I'm growing those muscles which were activated like this, right?
yeah,
And so I was going to the like acupuncture, massage, yoga, and still I wake up every single day, and I would still be just in pain, and
hmm
but when I started doing the cold plunges, like that greatly reduced the pain. I was like significantly, like I was like, oh, like I don't really have that ache back there now, and then I'm able to now focus on my posture more, but also now that I'm growing the other muscles because of the cold, it
yeah.
doesn't hurt as much. So I'm seeing improvement, right?
That's
So
good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, so like it's been a wild ride, but like for me personally, it's been great. The cold,
That's good. Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. I think that's what most people say afterwards. There's the ones who say, "No, I'm not. This is not me." It's
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to do it, or people are just like, "Yeah, it's very beneficial. I really enjoy
Yeah.
it." So,
I mean, every like again, when I'm looking at the water every day, I'm like, I like mentally, like my body is like, I don't want to do this, but
mhm,
mentally, I'm like, it's good for you.
exactly.
And one interesting thing is your mental state changes almost immediately. Like
hmm
before I do it the first thing in the morning, and I'm groggy, right? And then I'm like my head's not working right, and as soon as I dip in the water, like that cold shock happens, and I just start swimming, and
hmm
like it's um, like I'm not thinking about anything else other than I have this huge amount of energy just to start going,
Yeah.
and like it's wild.
And especially right in the morning, that's just activating everything in a state of, if I'm not mistaken, alpha brainwaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're conditioning your body to function in this way, like on a deeper level.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, man. So,
I'm happy that you're doing it for you. Like that's good for you.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like especially with cold water plunges, it's always for us, right? So, and the same with Kundalini too. So, yeah.
So back to the Kundalini.
Mhm.
Uh, we were getting into what your average practice looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like the breath work and all that stuff. work. It's a breath work within it, the stretching, but then a majority of it is meditation, and even with some of the instructors there, it's
It's what?
gong bath and crystal bowls.
Okay, what gong bath? That's the.
So it's yeah, basically will take about depends on which class, like 20 to 30 minutes,
Uh-huh.
and the instructor will they'll have like three different
Oh,
gongs,
the gong.
the
I see it.
gong, and then
Yeah.
they'll just have these instruments that can make certain sounds, and it's
Yes.
just gong bath, but it's an auditory bath where
Ah.
throughout the exercises and the exercises and the breath work, we will end in shavasana for 20 to 30 minutes, and then they'll do the gong bath and crystal
Really?
bowls, and it's just a very healing part of it as well too, of the whole practice, because it's like you're doing all this work, you're activating the Kundalini, right, through Kriyas, which is just a set of exercises that are meant for Kundalini activation, and then you sit in that to embrace it, to
I
really
see.
cherish what just happened on a subconscious and spiritual level, right?
And so, like, what effects do you have?
Oh, my central nervous system has been definitely been reconditioned, right?
Really?
Like I find myself a lot more calmer, more conscious, more self-aware in situations that
Mm-hmm.
would have normally triggered me. And it's just such a meditative practice, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we also do mudras. So that
Okay.
mudras, right?
Uh,
Like
I tell me. Yeah.
they're like hand positions to
Okay.
for different purposes. Like
Okay.
it's like it's in yoga,
Yeah.
all very ancient yoga practices, right?
Okay.
So
Yes.
you've seen some,
Like this.
like this,
Yes.
and then there's other ones where we'll go like this, and then we'll
Yeah.
like this, and then we'll just meditate
Oh, okay.
because it's meant to activate.
Interesting.
Yeah, because of the different energy sectors of the body and then different elements in the body as well too. And so when we do these, it all comes together, right? And especially
Mm-hmm.
if you go in with intention as to why you're coming to Kundalini, like what was your main purpose, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just you bring your intention, your own unique intention into the class, then you're going to be then it's going to bring out that deeper level to you, especially as to why you started to begin with, right?
Mm.
Mine was just healing, and yes, that's a very loaded generic term,
Mm-hmm.
but then once I started getting into it and the classes and what they had to offer, I just started to realize, I'm like, okay, well, there's a reason why I had been triggered in certain situations, because I've done a lot of the mind work. But when it comes to trauma, especially, there's the programming within the body, central nervous system. And this practice really gets in there. At least for me, it has, and many other people who have joined as well too. It's just this activation within the body that gets in there on a deeper level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meditation and mudras and the gong baths. It's just that healing on that deeper level within a person's body, right? I feel
Yes.
like it's not like an end all, or
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
a end all. It's not like a complete healing process for everything else. I think
Sure.
it's a good modality to add into your regimen of healing,
Mm.
right? And this was just kind of like that next chapter for me, because at Oxygen it wasn't calling to my soul.
Mm.
This was, right? Especially
Yeah.
when you've heard of Carl Jung, right?
No.
So he is like one of the forefathers. He's like one of the grandfathers of modern psychology in his own way. He did a lot of work around the soul
Mm-hmm.
and individuation and the subconscious mind. So he was a lot more meditative and in depth with the human
Okay.
consciousness, right? Anyway, he was talking about Kundalini in some of his books, and even wrote a book about it when he had lectures about Kundalini yoga. And he was from like the early 1900s. So he obviously explored Kundalini for a reason, and he found a reason as to how it was integrated into just subconscious work and like individuation and shadow self, things like this. I don't know too much about his work about it. I've
Mm-hmm.
just heard it in some excerpts of his book
Okay.
and what he's written that I've read, and he mentioned it, and it was kind of like a seed planted. But it wasn't until I actually did some psychedelic therapy with 5-MeO-DMT,
Mm-hmm.
where after a few trips of 5-MeO-DMT, and I really found more depth within me, and I experienced the ego death. Like, I
Yeah.
let go of a lot of things through these experiences. It wasn't until then, which was earlier this year, that I finally that seed sprouted and it was just like, why don't you try Kundalini yoga? It's always been there, but it was never
Yeah.
really. I don't think I was ready for it at that time because I read about it. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I went to that psychedelic experiences, that was when Kundalini finally that seed sprouted. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do it. And then I found that studio.
Interesting.